As the days passed, the story of the waitress and her magical piano reached the leaders of many planets. They heard about the music that could unite people from different worlds. Some were curious, others were hopeful. They sent messages to the spaceport, inviting the waitress to share her gift with even more people. The waitress agreed to travel. She left the small cafe, carrying only a small bag and her music. Many came to say goodbye, feeling grateful for the hope she had brought. The cafe felt quiet without her, but everyone knew her music would reach far beyond its walls. Her first stop was a large space station orbiting a blue planet. The leaders there gathered to listen. As she played, the music filled the great hall. Lights and colors danced above the piano, telling stories of peace and friendship. The leaders felt their worries melt away. They saw visions of planets working together, sharing knowledge and strength. One leader, a tall woman named Mira, stood and spoke after the music ended. "Your gift is powerful," she said. "It shows us that we are not alone. We must work together to protect our worlds and build a better future." The waitress nodded quietly. She knew the journey was only beginning. Her music was a bridge, a way to connect hearts and minds across the stars. From station to station, planet to planet, the waitress traveled. Each place welcomed her warmly. The music brought people together: scientists, artists, soldiers, and children. It gave them hope in times of fear and helped heal old wounds between different groups. On a distant desert planet, the waitress met a young boy named Jax. He was shy and afraid of the dangerous storms that often swept his home. But when he heard the music, something changed. The melody gave him courage to face the storms and dream of a brighter tomorrow. The waitress smiled when she saw Jax's brave heart. She played a special song just for him, full of light and strength. Jax listened closely, feeling the music fill his soul. The boy's story spread across the planets, becoming another thread in the great tapestry of hope woven by the waitress's music. It showed that even the smallest person could find power inside. As her journey continued, the waitress understood that her gift was more than music. It was a call to action, a reminder that unity and kindness were the true stars guiding all beings. With every note she played, the universe grew a little closer. The music was a promise that no matter the distance or difference, the light of hope would never fade. After many travels, the waitress returned to the spaceport cafe. She had shared her music with countless worlds and hearts. The cafe was still, full of people from different planets, waiting to hear her once more. This time the atmosphere felt different, full of hope, friendship, and dreams. As she sat at the old piano, she looked around and smiled softly. The crowd was quiet, waiting, eagerly. Then her fingers touched the keys, and the music began, soft, warm, and full of life. The notes floated through the air, wrapping around everyone like a gentle hug. The music told stories of everything she had seen on her journey. It spoke of brave explorers, children finding courage, and leaders choosing peace. It was a song of unity, showing that no matter where someone came from, their hearts could beat together. The people listened with wide eyes and open hearts. Some held hands, others wiped away tears. The simple waitress had become a symbol of hope and strength for many. Her music reminded them that even in the vast, dark universe, they were never truly alone. As the last note faded, the cafe erupted in applause. The crowd stood and cheered, their voices joining like a chorus of stars. The waitress stood and bowed, feeling the warmth of their gratitude. She knew that the music was no longer just hers. It belonged to everyone who believed in its message. Suddenly, the cafe lights dimmed, and a soft glow surrounded the piano. Above it, shimmering images of stars and galaxies appeared once more. The crowd gasped in wonder. The lights formed a beautiful pattern, a symbol of unity that stretched across the sky. The waitress smiled gently. She knew her music had awakened something powerful inside the hearts of those who heard it. It was, a spark that would grow, lighting the way for generations to come. Among the crowd, Kara, the pilot, looked up with hope shining in her eyes. Jax, the boy from the desert planet, smiled bravely. Dr. Lena, the scientist, nodded with understanding. And Mira, the leader, felt peace fill her soul. The universe was changing. Through music, kindness, and hope, worlds were coming together. The waitress had shown them all that even the smallest person could make the biggest difference. As the night grew quiet and the stars shone brightly outside, the cafe remained a place of light and dreams. The music played on in the hearts of all who had listened, a promise that no matter the darkness, the stars would always guide them home. After the music and lights faded, the cafe slowly returned to its usual busy noise. But something had changed. The people who had been there felt a new energy inside them. They whispered quietly, sharing their thoughts about what they had just witnessed. The simple waitress had shown them a glimpse of something much bigger than themselves, a connection to the stars. Among the crowd was a scientist named Dr. Lena. She had listened carefully to the music and watched the glowing shapes above the piano. Her mind raced with questions. How was the waitress able to create such music? Were the lights real or some kind of advanced technology? Dr. Lena felt certain that this was no accident. She believed the music held a secret code, a message from an advanced civilization. Dr. Lena stood and approached the waitress, who was now wiping her hands on her apron. "Excuse me," Dr. Lena said softly. "Your music, it is extraordinary. Do you know where it comes from? Is there a story behind it?" The waitress looked up with calm eyes. "I have always heard the music inside me," she said quietly. "It is a gift from far away. I play to share it with others, to remind them that the universe is alive and full of hope." Dr. Lena nodded, feeling a shiver of excitement. She knew she had to learn more. "May I study your music? I think it could help us understand things no one else has yet." The waitress smiled gently. "I will play for you again soon," she said, "but the music is only the beginning. The stars have much more to say." Word quickly spread through the spaceport about the waitress and her magical piano. People came from many places to hear her play. Some came with curiosity, others with hope. The cafe became a meeting place for those who dreamed of new worlds and new friends. One evening, as the waitress began to play once more, the cafe filled with the soft glow of stars above the piano. The music told new stories, stories of peace, courage, and unity among the stars. The listeners felt their hearts open, their fears fade away. The waitress's music became a symbol. It was no longer just a song, it was a message to all beings that they could come together and share their strength. The universe was bigger than any one planet or people, and together they could face the future with hope. The Spaceport Cafe was no longer just a stop for travelers. It had become a beacon of light in the vast darkness of space. The waitress and her piano were the heart of this new hope, a reminder that even the smallest person could carry the greatest gift. As the last notes faded that night, the crowd stood in silence, knowing that a new chapter was beginning. The stars had spoken, and the universe was listening. The story of the waitress and her magical piano spread far beyond the spaceport. News traveled quickly across planets and star systems. People from many places wanted to hear her music and feel the hope it brought. The cafe grew crowded with travelers, scientists, and explorers who came with open hearts. One day, a group of space explorers arrived. They were known for their daring journeys into unknown parts of the galaxy. They listened carefully as the waitress began to play. Her fingers moved with grace, and the music filled the room with warmth and light. The explorers felt the song in their bones, like a call to adventure. The music told stories of brave heroes and great discoveries. It spoke of friendship between different worlds and the power of working together. The explorers looked at each other with new courage. They knew their journeys were important, not just for finding new planets, but for bringing hope to many. Among the listeners was a young woman named Kara. She was a pilot, skilled and fearless, but she carried a heavy heart, full of doubts and fears about the dangers ahead. As the waitress played, Kara felt something change inside her. The music wrapped around her like a warm blanket, soothing her worries. She realized that she was not alone, that the universe was full of light and friendship. After the song ended, Kara walked to the waitress and said, "Your music gave me strength. I will carry it with me on my journey." The waitress smiled and replied, "The music is in all of us. It will guide you when the stars seem dark." The explorers left the cafe feeling inspired. They carried the music with them, sharing it with others on their travels. The song became a symbol of hope and unity across the galaxy. It reminded people that even in the darkest places, there was light. Back at the spaceport, the cafe became more than a resting place. It was a meeting point for those who believed in a better future. The waitress's music brought people together, helping them forget their fears and differences. One evening, as the sun set behind the distant planets, the waitress sat at the piano once more. The cafe was filled with soft light and warm smiles. Her music floated through the air, telling stories of peace and courage. The crowd listened, their hearts full of hope. The waitress's music was not just a song, it was a promise that, no matter how far apart they were, all beings could find a way to connect. It was a promise that together, they could face any challenge. As the last note faded, the people in the cafe knew their lives had changed. They were ready to step into the future with courage, carrying the music and the stars inside their hearts. The spaceport cafe was busy and full of life. People from many different planets and stars had come to rest after long journeys. The air was filled with laughter, talking, and the clinking of cups. Everyone was enjoying themselves, sharing stories and news from faraway places. In the middle of this lively crowd, a small waitress moved quietly. She carried a tray with drinks, smiling softly at the customers as she walked by. She was young and seemed simple, but there was something calm and special about her. In one corner of the cafe stood an old, dusty piano. It looked like no one had played it in a long time. Some of the travelers did not even notice it, but the waitress paused beside it. Her eyes shone gently as she looked at the keys. The customers nearby began to whisper and laugh quietly. "She is just a waitress," they said. "How can she play that old piano? Let's see if she can make any music at all." Some even smiled and made jokes, thinking this would be funny. The waitress did not answer. She moved with grace and sat down on the small wooden stool. Her fingers touched the keys lightly, as if greeting an old friend. For a moment, the cafe noise seemed to fade away. People stopped talking and looked toward her. Some raised their eyebrows, curious to see what would happen next. The youngest child in the cafe sat still, wide-eyed, waiting. Then, the first soft notes came from the piano. The music was slow and gentle, like a small breeze in the morning. It was not loud or fast, but it was clear and pure. The sounds floated through the cafe like a warm wave. The laughter slowly stopped. People turned their heads and listened. Even the cooks and bartenders paused to hear the strange, beautiful melody. The music made the people feel calm and happy. It was like the song was telling them a story without words. The travelers forgot their tiredness and troubles. Their faces softened, and some closed their eyes to enjoy the moment. The waitress's fingers moved smoothly over the keys, playing notes that felt alive and full of meaning. The cafe, once noisy and busy, became peaceful and quiet. It was as if time had slowed down. No one laughed anymore. Instead, the room filled with wonder and surprise. The simple waitress was showing a magic that no one had expected. Everyone wanted to know more about her and her music. The story was just beginning, and no one could guess where it would lead. The soft music continued to fill the cafe. People watched the waitress closely, surprised by her skill. The song was unlike anything they had heard before. It was not just notes on a piano. It was a melody that seemed to come from far away, from places beyond their imagination. The music touched their hearts and made them feel as if they were traveling through space and time. Some of the travelers whispered quietly to each other. "Where did she learn to play like this?" one asked. "I have never heard such beautiful music before," said another. The young waitress did not speak. She only smiled gently and kept playing. Her fingers moved quickly and smoothly over the keys, creating sounds that danced in the air. The music grew a little louder and brighter. It was still soft, but full of energy now. The notes painted pictures in the minds of the listeners. Some imagined stars shining brightly. Others saw vast planets spinning slowly in the dark. The melody seemed to tell a story without words, a story of distant worlds and great adventures. The youngest child in the cafe clapped her hands softly. She had never heard anything so beautiful. An old man sitting near the window wiped tears from his eyes. The music made him remember his home planet, far away in the stars. The people began to feel connected, even though they came from different places. The song was like a bridge between their hearts. Suddenly, the waitress played a series of fast notes, light and playful. The sound was like the laughter of children or the sparkle of stars. The crowd smiled, and some even nodded their heads to the rhythm. The cafe was no longer just a busy place. It had turned into a magical space where music brought everyone together. The waitress's eyes shone with a quiet light, as if she knew secrets about the universe. The music she played was not just for entertainment. It had a meaning deeper than anyone could understand. The travelers looked at her with new respect. They no longer saw a simple waitress, but someone special, someone who carried a message. Some started to take out small devices and began recording the music. A young woman, who was a scientist, listened carefully. She felt something strange but wonderful in the notes. The music was like a key, unlocking mysteries hidden in the stars. She wondered if this song was sent from another world, a message, waiting to be discovered. As the last soft notes of the melody faded away, the cafe stayed silent. No one wanted to break the magic of the moment. Everyone was thinking about what they had just heard and what it could mean. The simple waitress had changed the day for all of them. As the music played on, something strange began to happen. Above, the piano, soft lights started to glow. At first, the lights were small and faint, like tiny stars twinkling in the dark. Then, the lights grew brighter and began to move slowly in the air. The shapes looked like planets, moons, and swirling galaxies. The people in the cafe watched in amazement. They had never seen anything like this before. The lights seemed to dance with the music. Every note the waitress played made the lights change color and form new shapes. Some shapes looked like great spaceships flying through the stars. Others looked like distant cities shining with lights. The story the music told became clearer. It was a story about the universe, about the places beyond their world, full of wonder and mystery. The waitress did not stop playing. Her face was calm, almost like she was speaking with the stars through her piano. The patrons' eyes followed the glowing images. They felt as if the music and lights were opening a door to a secret world far away. A man near the bar whispered, "Is this some kind of magic?" A woman next to him shook her head. "No, it is something even greater. It is a message from the universe." Everyone looked around, feeling the power of the moment. The waitress was no longer just a worker at the cafe. She had become a bridge between their world and the vast unknown. The child who had clapped earlier now sat quietly, her eyes wide with wonder. She pointed at the lights and smiled. The old man by the window wiped more tears, feeling hope he hadn't felt for years. The music, the lights, the story, they were all telling something important, something that could change how they saw life. The scientist in the crowd pulled out a small device and began to record the light patterns. She believed that the music and lights were connected in a way that could reveal new knowledge about space. She wanted to study this moment, to understand the meaning behind the song. Suddenly, the music changed tone. It became soft and slow again. The lights began to fade gently, turning into small glowing stars one by one, until the sky above the piano was empty. The cafe slowly returned to its usual brightness, but the feeling in the room was different. The people looked at each other with new excitement and hope. The waitress smiled softly and stood up. She nodded at the crowd and quietly walked away. No one spoke for a moment. They just sat there, holding the memory of what they had seen and heard. For that night, the cafe was no longer just a place to eat or rest. It was a place where the universe had touched the hearts of many. The story was far from over, and the people knew that something amazing was just beginning.